Welcome to our webinar today. I'm Robin Heppell from Futurist, and today we're going to continue on with our talk about funeral service and AI and automation, and just trying to share with you some of the later things that have come up, but also to how as it is also maturing, and how we can take advantage of it to our role at the funeral home. So why do funeral homes lose calls right now? And it's not the way it used to be. And we're going to look at then how can we be the ones that get chosen first to be shortlisted, and then also we're going to be once we get on that short list and we receive the phone call or other form of communication, how can we maximize that to keep the families and win the call? And also too, I am not saying that we are completely automating the communications of the funeral home. This is just enhancing what the professionals and support staff do with the funeral home, and it's I think a good blend to for you to keep yourself in front of people, communicating with people, but not always having to rely everything on a human, because unfortunately humans make mistakes, and or they get busy, where automations just happen. And sure, maybe there needs to be a tweak made, but then once that tweak is made, it's things are good until something needs to be updated or changed again. So let's just go through the presentation, and then we'll have demonstration, and then we'll have some Q&A at the end if there are any questions. So how do families search today? And grieving families, they're not opening the yellow pages anymore, or it's not just phoning their neighbor and ask. They go to Google, and they see what funeral homes are there, and from that point on, though, they're starting to make their decision, and they're going to do a search first, even if your funeral home has served a family for generations. They're probably not going to remember the phone number, so they're going to go to Google first. And if they're not searching for your funeral home's name, if they're just searching for funeral homes in your city, then hopefully you, but unfortunately some of your competitors will be there, and we're going to talk about how we can stack things in your favor versus the others. So they look on Google first, and then they're going to make that call second. But right off the bat, they're going to be seeing, your listing. Maybe it's your Google business listing. They're going to see how many reviews you have, what's the rating, and then also kind of the ranking. And it's not going to hurt you to be the first one, and it's not going to hurt you to have the most reviews. Now, sometimes, it's not just having 5-star reviews. If you have between 4.4 and 4.9 is fine, but it's also the number of reviews and the recency of reviews. So those 3 factors: the rating, the number, and the recency. And we'll get into that in a little bit as well. And we'll slide on here to the next one. So the first problem, why are people not being chosen, right? And maybe it's because there's no Google Ads presence, and this can, it all depends on your market. If you have if there's 4 or more folks in the market, Google Ads is going to be an option, but you really need to be careful with and just a little side note here, in dealing with Google Ads and the reps that contact me constantly. They're not all of them are actual Google reps. So you need to, if you get an email from someone saying, I want to talk to you about your Google Ads, and they have it's like, Rob Heppell at xwf.google.com, that person is not a true Google rep. They're like an associate that only gets paid if you pay more. So unlike the olden days where Google's motto was do no evil, which they don't have anymore, they want you to spend more money, and they want you to spend as much as you can without closing your account. And they want to make sure that spend stays high, and they're not as worried about the number of clicks that you get. Sure, they want you to get some clicks, just enough so that you don't quit, right? But it's not the way it used to be, and these so-called reps are solely about trying to get you to use some of the newer things that Google offers, and they don't always align with funeral homes. And I know that we don't like to say, funeral service is different, but it is in the case that we get so many visitors to our website, so many people searching for funeral homes because of the obituaries. We get maybe 10 times the visitors as any other professional service, like in your market. If a funeral home's getting 50,000 visitors a month, where a law firm or an accounting firm might get 2,000. Maybe they get a bit more, but not that much. Those visitors want to do business. Maybe they want a little bit of information, but they're mainly reaching out to those professionals to do business. Where we have people wanting to do business with us, but it's just a small percent of the overall traffic. Anyway, the Google reps don't understand that, and they could have you bidding on obituaries, those terms, and those are call winning terms. You want to eliminate those. The other thing too is that once you get them kind of in the path, you want to keep creating that momentum. And what I want to explain to you is just a little step back in my recent history, where in 2020 I sold Funeral Results Marketing. I stayed on for 2 years while we transitioned the business, and then after that, so that was right after kind of the world was getting, or North America anyway, was getting back to normal with the pandemic, and I went back to where I left at the local funeral home here, and started selling pre-need again. And so I left in 2007, 2008, and thinking that the pre-need program would be kind of the way I left it, and it wasn't. It kind of needed to dust it off and get it back rolling again. And over a year or so, kind of really built it back up and get the systems back into place. And at the same time, I was also going to events about AI, and I'm always thinking, okay, how does this apply to funeral service? And that's how kind of it's wired in my brain. If I see an idea, and if it doesn't fit, I don't tell you about it. But if it does fit, or it could fit, then I look into it a little bit further. And what we found was that and the owner said to me, he said, Rob, what is it? Like, you have all these like one-time closes, for all these pre-need sales. What's going on? And it's not that I'm this great salesman. I'm a marketer. I'm not a salesperson. And really that's the answer there. I was marketing to people, when they made an inquiry. It wasn't just, okay, we booked an appointment, and then the next time they get any information at all is when we're sitting face to face. they get a nice email. They say, hey, here's the agenda that we're going to go over. If you can submit your vital stats ahead of time, that would be great. Here are the various choices that we're going to go through, and show them. They could download the form. Some people do it, some people don't. But as if people did it, and here we have our typical sales funnel, and you have your marketing qualified leads at the top, and then they come down, and then their sales qualified leads. Well, we're bringing them down that funnel further. And what was really interesting was it wasn't like the conversation was rarely ever about price. And where I'm doing this is not they're not the lowest price in the market. They're not the highest, but they're up there, and we do very well. So then I was at this event last fall in October in Dallas, and I heard this term called speed to lead, and it kind of explained it. And it's you can Google it, and it will come up, and it just talks about this. Where in the past it's like, we get an inquiry, okay, well, don't respond too quick. It'll look like we're really needy, and we really want to get that business. Where that's in this generation, that doesn't matter anymore. People, if they have an inquiry, they're waiting to get the information back, and if you don't, they'll just keep their search going. So the further we draw them down the funnel, the quicker we draw them down the funnel, the less they're going to shop around, and it will just make you look way better than your competitors who are still waiting. Oh, we'll get to that this afternoon, or so-and-so's, they're off today. They can call back tomorrow, which is great, because by then they'll have an appointment set, they'll have other information, and that person will just feel like, oh, I'm going to deal with this funeral home because they're just way more on the ball and they're way more helpful than these other people that I haven't heard back from. So you'll hear speed to lead, and kind of win calls faster. It's kind of the thing that we want to think of. So we've got these two areas, right? And the first one is we need to be on the short list. And so whether that's using your Google Ads, or whether that's using like SEO, like your search engine optimization, and then now we've got AEO or GEO, where people might be searching in ChatGPT or even in Google when their AI results come up first. And there's ways to give you a better opportunity that your information is up there than someone else's. Your Google business profile it's always been important. It's been a number of different names in the past: Google Places, Google My Business, and now the more professional name, and which they've stuck to for a few years now, is Google Business Profile. And part of that is their online reviews. And again, as I mentioned before, you want the most number of reviews. You want recent reviews. So if you have 100 reviews from a year ago and more, that's not going to be as good as 50 reviews in the last year, right? So you want to keep them going, and you want that to be steady. And then yes, the rating is important as well. And then that's just part of it. Then they get to your website, and hopefully your website doesn't drop the ball. So you want to make sure that they get directed to the right place, and you can continue that conversation on. And as Google calls it, you want to keep the scent. So when they in your Google Ads, if someone's looking for funeral homes, we're going to use Philadelphia as a demo here. So funeral homes in Philadelphia, they search that, they see an ad that says maybe something about the funeral, but funeral homes in Philadelphia, and then they land on a page that has funeral homes Philadelphia. That is the congruency, keeping the scent, and we want that to be on our website as well. Then the second one is, okay, we've got them there. Now we need to win the call, we need to convert them and make them commit to using our funeral home versus using a competitor's. And so right off the bat, maybe it's a phone call, and we all know how important those phone calls are, but they have other ways of doing this now. So maybe they're, they send a text message or a chat bot message through your chat window if you have that on your site, or they send you an email. And again, you don't want those emails to wait either. You want those to be responded to. Then you want to give them instruction of, kind of what are the next steps, and here, these are the processes. Then if you're up to it, and this is probably pretty new for some funeral homes, but eventually having a booking calendar, because we use it all the time for other things, whether it's not that I need to get my hair cut from some places, but I know my wife and my daughter, they get their hair cut and they go online and they book a time, and or it's a chiropractor or the doctor's office or dentist or what have you. They need, you can do that, and behind the scenes we can have 3 or 4 people's calendars, and it will show availability, and maybe it shows it for one person and not the other, and if they choose that time, then that's who they're making their arrangements with. And you can really segment it so that there's only certain times that are available to the public. It looks per person. To the public, it looks like there's lots of opportunity, but for for the individual, it can all be done, and then they're communicating with that person's calendar, and they've set a time and they can come in. Again, might be a little different than having the book where that gets written out, or having it on on the wall with a big whiteboard or what have you. But this is the way it could be. And then you want to make sure that there's some follow-up systems too. So if they haven't made a decision yet, that you have a gentle reminder. Obviously, we're not hardcore salespeople, and all of this will just have this consistency, so that when the staff does interact with them, everyone's got their they've got the same information, and two, even though a lot of staff don't like it, it's good for them to know the various scripts of different times of what they should say, or at least it doesn't need to be verbatim, but it needs to hit these certain things, and we just want to have a consistent, just have that consistency. So what we're looking at here is, if we're going to implement this type of system, again, that just makes it more efficient and more consistent. So we're going to capture that person. They're looking for the funeral home. We're going to convert them as a family that we're going to serve, and then we want to respond to them and have those follow-ups, and even after the service, so that they can get notified of leaving a Google review or a Yelp review or a Facebook review, and that can all be done, and it can all be automated. So instead of just having a list of things to do and then someone's tired or has been busy, or things just get forgotten. So just to jump right into it here, I want to get into the demonstration. And the first one that we're going to do here is Philadelphia. So let me, here, I just have to. And this is a little tool that I've created. You can check this out. We'll look at we'll kind of look at the big picture. But the first thing I want to do, and I just picked this randomly. What we've done is I think there's like 15 different markets that we've built this for, and what this is it's just pulling public information that's easily found and bringing it into one place. Now, the general public isn't going to use this, but it's really good for us to see why one firm might be ranking higher than the other. So there's some various different dialogues here. And so it has that we're tracking 10 firms. Average is 4.7. It says that the Baldy Funeral Home's number one. And just getting a sense of, based on the obituary notices that could be tracked, that the number is approximately 450 for the month. And so it again gives its rank and tries to figure out a little bit of maybe why that is. And now here, like we can see, and we won't spend too much time. I just want to give you an overview of this and how that how it all looks. And then so we've got the funeral home, the number of reviews, and the rating. And when we look at that, then we look at like number 4 here, Monte Rego. They've got double the reviews, but the reviews are less, the ratings less. And also too, maybe it's because these reviews are from the past. And then this one, Logan, it has even more reviews and it's 5 stars. But again, that might be because they're older and maybe they don't have as many, like it doesn't seem that they're as busy. So all these factors are kind of going into the placement, and you want to make sure that the different things that you do that you have control over, that so you can always get more reviews unless you're getting 100% reviews from every family, and that would be the first step. There's other things here, so there's that. And again, as I said, you can look at this later and check it out. Then we go into this section here, and all the firms are kind of lined up here. But you might wonder, well, why is this firm so much higher than everyone else? And if you use the little chevron here and click down, you can see the different things that have been identified, how they're doing on their digital presence, are there any weaknesses at all? What are they standing on social media? So it looks like they're very active. They have a lot of followers, and then again it shows a few little areas for improvement. And so you can go down and check these out for everyone if you want. If your town isn't shown, you can also request that to be done, and we'll release probably 5 new ones a week. It's not cheap to get this done, even though it's getting done by AI. There's still a cost to it. So that's why we don't have 100 out there, because as you can see, it's not just going to the website. It's going to the website. It's going to Google reviews. It's going to all the social media. It's comparing them and then sorting them out here. So it has the number of reviews and then the star rating. So here you can see that Logan has a lot, but what we don't see here is maybe how new are they. Then we have just a look at the different obituaries. What are they doing monthly and then quarterly, which helps because the more pages or posts that you have on your website. You're going to create a bigger footprint, which is going to be, it's one of the main reasons that when Google's looking at ranking websites, they're looking for the index count. Now, and then this is a great little resource, and this is for everyone. It just says, generally speaking, these are the different things that can be done to help improve your website or your ranking. And so it has the different SEO factors here, so search engine optimization. Then we have AEO, and this is, and as I said, we come back to FAQs. This is one of the real main differences between how Google works and then how the AI search when someone's using AI, like a large language model. Whether it's on the Google results page, they now have their own AI section there, or if someone's typing this into ChatGPT or Claude or Grok. And what we're learning now is that FAQs, there should be a lot more of them, because that's where they're getting their information for the large language models, right? Because they have that maybe a longer question, and those questions will then trigger a response. And with that, you can you don't necessarily just put all your FAQs on one page. Like you have them categorized. So say all your FAQs about funeral services are on one page, and then the ones about cremation are on the cremation page. The ones about pre-need are on the pre-need page. So you spread them out throughout the website as well, because we've always made people, if they have questions, they have to go find the FAQ page, and they have to read through all of them to see which ones are important. Well, if they're on the pre-need page and they still have questions about pre-need, then have your pre-need FAQs right there. And it's easy for your web company to do that, or it should be. And then though they need to be, what you need to have is, again, you need that schema markup wrapped around it. So you're telling the search engines, hey, here's a frequently asked question, and you might have a number of them there. And that's, again, how they will how the large language models will find that information. Here is the speed to lead, and so most people are coming to the websites and on their phone or tablets, and even a lot of like senior citizens, you see them whether it's at a hotel or at like the airport or wherever, and they're consumed on their phone, on their tablet. They're scrolling with their finger, checking out Facebook or Instagram, maybe, probably them. They're going to be on Facebook, but they're on there, and more so than on a laptop or at home in front of their desktop computer. Also, too, I don't have to tell you, but people need our services 24 hours a day, and there are a lot of people that maybe they can't sleep, or maybe they work like a night shift or something, and they're performing a lot of their research after hours. So having live chat 24 hours a day would be very helpful. And then review generation too, just again, you want to you want to have a strategy to really, as I always like to say, to humbly solicit a review, right? The simplest way is, it was an honor to serve your family, for us to serve more families like yours. If you don't mind, please take a few minutes and leave us a Google review. It can be that simple, and you're not being pressured. You're not sending out immediately after they make a purchase, but have that there and have it go to all all people who you want to have reviews. I'm laughing because back in the olden days, 20 years ago, and I'm at the graveside service, and you know what? It's just been one of those families that you tried everything you could. You did everything as well as you could, but they just weren't happy, or they're cranky, or whatever. And we used to have like those paper surveys, and I'd go into the little pouch that we would give them at the end with the guest book and the thank you cards, and left extra memorial folders, and I'd take out the survey form, put it in my pocket, and just put it back in the rotation for the next family. But so we can still do that virtually. We don't have to send out that humbly solicited review to everyone, just the families that you want. Hopefully you got a kick out of that. So there's lots of information here, and and one of the questions here is, what is AEO? So AEO is it's really how to rank well in the when searching the like in ChatGPT or that type of thing. It's just a differentiation of the size of website, the content on the website, the number of backlinks to the website. That's Google's old model, even though it's matured over time, and it's way more complicated than it used to be. But they still look for those things where the large language models use other, they're looking for other things, but they also use some SEO too. They can obviously see that information too. They reviews and things like that. So it's now both. If you're getting SEO services, it should include both Google and your LLMs or ChatGPT, etc. And excuse me. And then obviously, the more reviews you're getting, more testimonials, and get those up on your website as well. And then here is just some different strategies that you can do to improve improve your positioning. Again, this is it's more generic. A lot of these, you could read these for any, these would apply everywhere. They're going to be more specific in some markets than others. So as an example, I didn't know this. I'm not, I've been in Philadelphia 4 or 5 times in my life. But, now, like, hey, like there's a Vietnamese population, there's an Indian population there. So it may not hurt to have a couple of pages or just a page each on that written in their language, whether you have like Google Translate or just, there's enough AI services out there to get information, or even just in Google to get it translated and and post that. With those number of people in your community, you can always like get it printed out, run it by a live person, say, hey, does this all make sense? There should be some connection there that you can do with these different cultural communities, and just add that to your website, which is then it's going to help. And then the last part here, and again, this helps everyone, is to here are some blog content that would be helpful to add. So just a guide to funeral costs in Philadelphia, and using similar titling, because that's going to be found again by the ChatGPTs and then of the world, and then also that's going to be found by humans too, because they'd be looking for these types of things. So there's lots of different different options here. You don't have to do everything, but we're, as we have in the past, we always have to be just tweaking and keeping our marketing going for that, especially kind of in this new time of people looking for looking through different things such as ChatGPT, Google's AI search result right at the top. So you can look at this, and I did say that we would look at and so this, it's just funeralcompetitors.com, and so yeah, I think there's 17 different ones, and I just got a rank of all the most, like the highest populated cities, and added them. They're all added alphabetically here, and if yours isn't here, you can always just submit a request down here. Just fill in your name and email address and phone number and whereabouts you are, and as I said, we're going to do something similar for cremation providers. We're also going to do one that's focused just right on pre-need for both funeral homes and cremation providers. Next, I want to just go on to the our next little demo here. And this is like part two, where now that we've got them to the website, and how AI and automation can help from there. So the family visits the website, they go onto the chatbot. The chatbot can capture information. If they don't capture that as a full lead, they can always just give a follow-up. They can always send a link, or they can even book the meeting right online. So instead of talking about this, let's do this as well. So now I'm going to bring this over here. And this is just one of my sample. I don't have a funeral home. I don't have a cremation business, but this is just this is just a demo site that we use for that. Now I've my little picture here. So we can have a live chat, and then so I'll just kind of enter in my name here. And I'll use personal email. It gets Futurist emails all the time when we're testing it. So it kind of registers, and then we have just a couple of questions here, and so it I've got some questions already put out. So, you know, how much does the cremation cost? Cremation packages start at $1,500 for basic, $2,500 for simple, and $3,500 for signature. All options are transparent with no hidden fees. So in these responses can be as detailed as you want. What we do is we build a real like library of questions and answers that you might have, and what and then, you know, and it won't, if it doesn't know the answer, it's not going to guess at it. So maybe you don't want to have your exact pricing in there, or maybe you want to be kind of have it a bit more roundabout. That's fine. You can also ask here, like my next question here is, okay, can I set a time for tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Or here, let's change that because I was testing it. Let's say 2 p.m. What's going on here? That's not the same. That was just up there. That's strange. I wondered why that was taking a bit of time. Hold on a sec here. What we'll do while we're waiting is we'll test it again. I'm going to test the voice feature, and I'm going to do it on my phone though, just so that you can hear. Otherwise, if I do it through the computer, you're not going to hear it. So I'll ask the same questions here, and you should be able to hear it. Just one sec.
This is Cindy, the AI assistant with Heppell Cremation Service. Who am I speaking with?
This is Rob.
Hi, Rob. How can I assist you today?
Yes, Cindy. Could you tell me how much an immediate cremation is?
We offer 3 cremation packages. Basic cremation, $1,500. Simple cremation, $2,500. Signature cremation, $3,500. The basic cremation includes professional services, transportation, necessary documentation, the cremation itself, and a basic urn. Would you like more details or assistance with anything specific?
That's fine for now. Thank you very much, Cindy. So that's and that's really, like, if you were on any of my webinars in the past, you would have known that there was a little bit of latency that we'd have to wait for. Sometimes it didn't always hear you, but it gets better all the time. So that's that part. And again, I'm just going to try to refresh this one more time here. But what we'll do is we'll go into the system, and here was the calendar when I did my test. That's why I changed it from 10 a.m. And so this so this is put in my calendar, and if it's connected to your Outlook or Microsoft or your Google, it would show up there as well. Again, it may not be for everyone at this time. It could be maybe more for pre-need than at need, but this is where things are going. Let me see here, and here I just wanted to get this is the recording of all the the conversation, right? So here is the chat, and then they follow up with a text message. Here's a link to the calendar where they can then put in their calendar information here, and we can just set it so that it's just between the times that you want, and that. So it's all integrated all in one place. Integrates with your calendars as well. And then there are a lot of other things that we can do within this, because it's going to have when it's sending out information, it's called, this is going to get a little technical here, and so this is just the workflow of what happens. So the chat message comes in, then after whatever period of time, 5 minutes, then it will either assign a tag or continue on. It will send an email follow-up. It'll send a text message follow-up. We can write in here what you wanted to say, or the text message would be a lot shorter. Here it is here, so it's got the name, and then the link to book the pre-need, and and that goes from there. So there's a little bit of follow-up. I don't want to get into too much detail. If anyone wants to have a pure demo of this, we can do that one-on-one, and we can go into this in more detail. So let's back here. So, and you know what, this isn't stopping. AI isn't, people haven't had enough. There's all kinds of hype and things like that, and we're not talking about like the leading edge of things here, but a lot of these things are just going to become expected, that that people can book an appointment. Or why can't I book an appointment? Like, here's an aside. So for now, like almost 4 years of making prearrangements with folks, every time, 100% of the time, I've had the computer with me, a laptop, and and I know a lot of folks do their arrangements with pen and the arrangement file, and that's it, and then they have to enter in the information later. And now I know some people are going to say, well, pre-need's different than at need, but I've made pre-need arrangements with people who are terminally ill, who are in their 90s, and it's no one's ever said, "Oh, why do you have that computer here?" No one, because when they leave the funeral home, they're going to the bank. And at the bank, they're behind a computer. If they go somewhere else, they're going to be behind a computer. So it's something that you can something just to think about and adopt over time. It's going to be a lot quicker for people. There's going to you'll have less mistakes, and I think it just a better presentation. It's not something that is so out there that people are going to think, oh, this funeral home's weird. They have computers in their arrangements. That's not going to happen. It'd be probably the other side is like, how come those people don't have a computer? Like everywhere else, they're taking information. If they're talking to the government about any death benefits or things like that, they're all going to have computers too. Anyway, so let's see here. So just have that that lean forward mindset, and you don't have to like change everything, but just have that mindset of like, hey, we're gonna keep on improving. There's different things that we can do, and there's going to be some people that embrace it and embrace the future, which is great, and there's going to be others that don't, and they'll just they won't have as many reviews. They they'll won't have as many FAQs on their website, or they won't have as many articles or other information. So it's no longer, hey, we've been in business 75 years and we should be, everyone needs to come to us. It's going to be like who's kind of figures this out the best, and gets more recent reviews, make sure that they have lots of FAQs on their website, and that people can interact with them in a number of different ways, not just by telephone. This is going to grow over time. So, and I'm always available to take questions. You can send me a question. We can set a time, and just to let you know what we do. Along with, even though it's not up here, we still develop websites for funeral homes and for cremation arrangement websites, where people can make the arrangements all online, sign the papers online, everything's done online, they pay online, and you just arrive to work, and there's a prepaid at-need call sitting in your inbox. But then what we also offer are AI and automation services. So you're going to have chatbot alive 24/7. There's going to be follow-up sequences. People can book online and get their confirmations. We offer Google Ads as well, and very specifically, for like I know funeral service way more than these Google reps or these Google associated reps, and they just want you to spend more money. And I'm there about saving you money and getting you more, getting you more clicks. And then also too with old school SEO and new AEO, GEO, they still haven't come up with what's going to be these two terms keep competing against each other. But in the end, it's still SEO. People are still searching for someone, and and hopefully they're going to select you over someone else. Your reputation management, so making sure that all families that you want to leave your review, they'll get a nice message where we're humbly soliciting them to leave a review for you, and also social media marketing to get that out there and get them to see that you're present because lots of these folks, these older folks, yeah, my mother-in-law, she's on her Facebook tablet, or she's on her tablet looking at Facebook all the time. So just kind of staying top of mind with them. So I've got some time here for questions, and let's just okay. Okay, so the question is, and this is a good question. We have a single review that is not related to our company or even the address. Can you help us remove that review? Well, what I would recommend to do first is address that review. So go into your Google business profile and find the review, and just you want to state the facts. You want to do it kind of above board, and you can just say, I'm going to give you a second response in a second, but just what you're wanting to say is thank you for sharing your thoughts. We've looked through our records, and we cannot find your name or in any of these, so it doesn't look like we've served a family member of yours, and so we think you may have the wrong the wrong business to leave this information. So you're taking the high road, but just still stating the facts. Now, what I would do is take that review, state what you stated, that, hey, we haven't served this family, and put it into ChatGPT or whoever you want to use, and say, what would be a good response? And then it will come up because it knows it knows this, it probably gets this all the time. So it will give you a response, read it over, tweak it if you want, paste it in. I always just the one big thing is take out they call them M dashes. And here on the screen here, you can see I've got this regular dash that's on my keyboard right beside the equals sign up there in the number row, right, to the right of the 0. But they put these big long ones in there, and that's the first giveaway that it's AI written. So make it small, and then you submit it as a response. Then after maybe 3 days or up to a week, then you can go and report. There's usually the 3 dots above a review, or on the right hand side, and click that, report this review, and then I'll give you some options and just say, if one of them is, didn't serve this family, or not a customer, or not didn't do business with them, or whatever. Anyway, if you do that, sometimes, just one sec. Sometimes people will then or Google will read that, and then they'll just take the review down, or you might have to follow up with Google afterwards. But they'll see it. They'll see that it's fraudulent, and they'll just remove it. So that's the best way to do it. Let's see here. We then contacted Google to request it to be removed. Okay, so then did Google give you a negative response in that? And while I'm waiting, if there's any other questions, please send them along. Yeah, but that's how I would, how I would approach that. The other thing too is, there are going to be times that you, okay, they said it wasn't a violation of the terms. Okay, well, yeah, if that, then that's unfortunate. So the other way to, there's a couple things to add to this. When I see people with like 200 reviews and there's 5 stars, it actually looks a little fishy. Now, sometimes they've got a number of 4 stars, or they may have 1 or 2 1 stars, but they have so many that it's just rounded up to it was more than 4.9, so they were just rounded up to 5. So that's one thing. And so it won't, like, if you have a lot of reviews, it shouldn't affect you as much. So if you don't have many, if it really affects, if you have 5 reviews and one of them's negative, it will look a lot better if you have 15 or 20 reviews. You're just going to make that percentage smaller and smaller. The other thing too is, people, as I said, if a firm has 5 stars, it kind of looks fishy. So, if you have 4.9 or 4.8, and so someone looks through, and I do this all the time, like on Amazon, I'll read, some of the positives, but I always check the negatives. Like, hey, I'm going to buy this product. What's the negative? And I'll go and so sort by negatives. And people will, like, the general public, they're not stupid. So they can read, like, hey, this person's a wingnut, and they left this review, and you responded in a very professional manner, which is it's gonna help you. Now, it would be better that it was gone, but if it's not gone, at least the way that you've talked about it is going to be in your favor. So I think that's the best that you can do. Just wondering if there's any other comments or questions. Oh, great. Well, I'm glad you found it helpful. Just got some messages in there. This is a new, this is kind of the new normal, and I'll continue to share what we learn, and hopefully we can help folks out. We now have the ability to look after lots of these things all within our system, and it just makes it easy, and also too not as expensive. So like $1,000 for SEO services or $1,000 for Google Ads, that's a for the management part of it, that's a thing. It should be a thing of the past. There obviously are some costs for, we still need to do things. We still have a system that we have to pay for, but we can make it a lot more efficient. Let's see. So if we go back to here, we'll check out Seattle. So just to kind of give you a little bit of a difference here of what it is. Now, this one thing here, I'm going to, this will get updated. Our system there's a little glitch, so not everywhere when I see like huge numbers here, there's an issue. So I'll get that kind of recalibrated, and it will get refreshed. But again, overall, there's still lots of there's lots of helpful information here. looks like these folks have been at it for a long, long time. Bonnie Watson. And obituaries. And then it's going to give you, again, helpful information. So if you have questions and maybe want your site to be, or your location to be listed, just enter the information here. You can send me an email, just reply to one of the emails that you got for the webinar. Yeah, that would be great. Okay, well, I really appreciate your time. If you have any questions, please forward them on. If you're kind of confused about it, let me know. I'll try my best to work it out for you and explain it. And I'm learning every day. So this is, and I know, funeral directors, we're a bit of a different breed. My grandfather was 86 years old, cutting the grass at the cemetery, fell off the tractor, and then died 6 months later. And so I told my wife the first time we met, I said, just so you know, I'm not going to be retiring at 55 and going to spend like weeks and weeks on the beach in Hawaii. That's just not going to happen. And I'm sure a lot of you are similar. We love this profession, and this is a new chapter. So anyway, I really appreciate your time today, and we'll chat with you soon. Take care.